Hello, it's Martin Murray here, and this is the panel at Dublin BIC. Today is Monday, the 6th of April, and I'm joined by James Milligan, Director with Hayes Recruitment. James, you're very welcome.
Good morning, Martin. Thank you for having me.
Hayes has a particular focus on the recruitment challenges for startup business, and in fact, quite recently, you've put together your tech startup report, which behind which there's a lot of research, and in which you detail a lot of the kind of challenges that startups face when it comes to doing recruitment. Can you tell us about those challenges, please?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke to 120 startup and scaling organizations last year, and we launched a report in January. And I suppose like the findings were quite interesting. I think the key challenges that people faced, 49% of organizations said that they found it difficult to find the right employees. 45% said one of the challenges was being unable to offer the same salary as more established organizations. And then actually 43% said that competition from other employers was a key challenge. So all of them relate to the ability to identify, attract and engage with the talent that they want.
And what are the key skills that startups are finding most challenging to recruit?
So unsurprisingly, actually, the key skill, the number one skill that I find challenging is sales and business development. 63% of organizations said that was a big challenge for them. Closely followed by software development. 56% of organizations said they find it challenging to hire for developers, and then 48% around marketing and brand. So not surprised with any of those findings, really.
Obviously, big, established, well-funded organizations have certain advantages when it comes to recruitment. What are the advantages that a startup might have, and how does it compete against the big players when it comes to sourcing the very best talent?
Yeah, I think a startup, one of the advantages they have is the agility that they have as an organization versus the processes that multinationals have. So multinationals can often be quite rigid in terms of their hiring. They can have a multi-stage process and find it difficult to keep the candidate engaged. Also, a job with a multinational may well mean doing a specific task or tasks sort of on a recurring basis. Whereas in a startup, they're a lot more agile. They can hire more quickly. I think at the moment we're seeing that the scaling businesses are much more agile and hiring in the current environment than some of the large multinationals, which are currently stepping back and just seeing how things play out. And they're able to offer candidates much broader experience in general. Not just necessarily in technology, within operations, more commercial and business experience. So I think it's really key that a startup sort of outlines what differentiates them and is able to articulate that as part of any recruitment process.
I saw a very interesting comment in your tech startup report that said when the startup is competing with the big organization for talent, that they should not compete on salary, they should compete on culture.
Yeah, you're not going to win on salary, especially if you're competing against certain sectors. So, okay, the salary has to be within a range. It can be probably below 50%, a bit below the medium, but it has to be within the range. And if you're not within that range, you're going to find it very difficult to attract people. But yeah, culture's critical. It's one of the key things, if not the key thing, that the candidates are looking for when they are looking to move to a new organization or for a new challenge.
Yeah. For the startup founder, particularly if that person is a first-time founder, it's really difficult to know if you're taking on the right person. What do you recommend to startups to try to ensure that this person not only has the technical skills but will be a good fit for their company?
So I think firstly you need to be quite tight in defining what you need. If you don't know what you need, then you don't know if you're getting the right person to do the job. So I think you have to spend some time going, right, what is the role that we need this person to fulfill? And what does that look like both from a technical and from a cultural perspective? And then once you've done that and you've got people into the pipeline, you need to be able to assess their suitability. So with technical skills, if you're non-technical, there are platforms out there that can help with technical testing. But we find that sort of situational interviewing is very useful for understanding how an individual might respond in certain circumstances. So that's an approach that we would encourage, especially if the person has a much broader role than just a technical role.
Well, one of the problems that I've seen both in very large corporations, but I think it's also relevant for smaller ones and much smaller ones, is that people tend to recruit from within their own network. And even in large corporations, you have incentivization schemes where the people within the organization are encouraged to bring in the resumes of the people in their network and so on. And then you have selection processes such as peer-to-peer interviewing and so on. And it can lead to the recruitment of, I think, what's sometimes called in the industry PLUs, people like us. You recruit somebody who's a mirror image of yourself and with whom you feel very comfortable. Obviously, that leads to a lack of diversity, and possibly leads to people who don't bring the full set of skills to the organization that is required. How can you guard against that in your selection processes?
Yeah, I think all the points you made are very relevant. I think so. If you look at the beginning, you need to look at the funnel that you're going to create for talent, and there is a value to using people within your network who are known and trusted, particularly at an early stage. But as you scale, you need to have more diversity because it will help you, in terms of growing that business and having different views and avoiding groupthink. So I think you need to be very cognizant of the risks around what you described. There's lots of information out there now around writing job adverts which encourage people to apply rather than encourage people to rule themselves out. When you're actually going through the recruitment process itself, again, you need to be self-aware to the pitfalls that you might have for looking for people like yourself, and in terms of I suppose, like, diversity is not only the right thing to do, but all of the data shows it's the smart thing to do. More diverse organizations are more successful because they spot problems that other people don't, because they're looking at it from multiple lenses. So I think, again, you need to understand the business benefit of diversity, and also design your process to make sure that you are inclusive and you do have that broad talent pool.
Yeah. So James, this is a slightly unusual time to be talking about recruitment. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and actually lots of people are letting people go or furloughing them and so on. Any comments on that for startups? Are there particular opportunities that arise out of this situation? Or when we do get back to recruiting people again in a more scalable fashion, is there particular advice for how people should start into that again?
So we're actually seeing that the startups and the scaling companies are probably the ones that are most active at the moment. I mean, there's obviously certain sectors like healthcare, NHS, HSC. They're looking to get their people in, not just in frontline roles, but obviously in back end roles to support those people. But there's certain sectors which are clearly struggling, and organisations that serve into those sectors are going to be finding it difficult to retain their talent. Like airline industry, hospitality, anything, potentially gambling. Gambling companies have no live sport. So there are people out there who probably are either worried about the future or in a situation where they're actually forced to make a decision. So it's actually not a bad time to be engaging with people when they are feeling a bit susceptible, to show that there's some support out there and there are opportunities available. Everybody's worried. We don't know how long this is going to go on. We don't know what sort of impact it's going to have from a societal point of view or from an economic point of view. So I think it's sensible to be softly getting in contact with people and remind them that there's support out there. I mean, there's certain sectors where we're seeing high demand, right? Ed tech, anybody's a parent. I've got a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 2-year-old. You probably can hear them in the background, hopefully not. But we've downloaded so many apps in the last 3 or 4 weeks to try and keep them occupied whilst we work. So there's booms in certain areas, and that's just one example of a multitude of areas.
Yeah, indeed. There's a lot of entrepreneurs now who are figuring out what the new world is going to look like and how their businesses should respond to that. My last question to you, obviously a lot of startups will have a low level of funding. There might be a strong inclination on the part of the founder to take a DIY approach to recruitment, and hey, don't we have access to all of those social media networks and so on to get our recruitment message out? What are the services provided by an agency such as Hayes Recruitment, and what advantages can you offer to the startup over that DIY approach?
Yeah, I think there is value to the DIY approach for the right role. Like for more junior roles, I mean, you can go out, you can post a job, you can response manage, and you can select a candidate. I mean, one of the challenges might be that you don't have the knowledge and expertise to actually run that process, and that's potentially a risk for you. I mean, what we can bring, let's talk about, say, software developers, is we have a candidate pool out there who are pre-screened, or most software developers that are within Ireland, we have a strategic relationship with Stack Overflow. So even if they're not registered with us, we can access them via that relationship. And it means if they're looking for somebody, we've already sort of understand what those individuals are looking for, their preferences, their requirements, and we can match a person much more quickly and much more accurately than going through a DIY approach, if you like. And ultimately that's going to save time and money, because the process will be much more fluid, and financially you're not going to have to experiment with multiple channels to know that you're going to get the right outcome.
Very good. James Milligan, Director with Hayes Recruitment, thank you very much for joining me today to discuss these challenges that startups are having in recruitment, and indeed the opportunities that are there for them going forward. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a good day.